For some reason, she's not in this room. I don't know why. Okay, so here we go. 6 to 9. For those of you guys just joining us in the video, if you're absent today, or if maybe you're just listening to it at a later point in time, I'm going to talk specifically about the test, and then we're going to grade section 3.5, so you can get those homework spiral points tomorrow. And then I'm going to answer the questions that are specifically helpful for what the test is going to ask you. So here we go. Test topics. You are going to have to look at a transformed, this is back to 3132, a transformed equation of an exponential and or logarithmic function. And talk about how it was transformed. Was it reflected? Was it shifted? Left, right, up, down, across the x, across the y? And don't worry, it's not one of those weird and then where the order matters. You just have to identify the transformations. You are going to have some basic solving problems like 3132. What that means is one-to-one properties, remember, make the bases match. One-to-one properties make the bases match. Along those lines, in 3.1, if you have any big numbers, for instance, I don't know, like 625, it's not the one on the test, I'm just giving you an example. Wouldn't you need to break that down to make it 5 to the power, right? You are going to be allowed to have your graphing calculator. But remember, the answers on the test do not have decimals. Now, does that mean you can't get it to be a decimal? No, you can get it to be a decimal, but you're going to have to do extra work to do that. But you're going to have to break down big numbers to make the bases match. What's any log of 1? Any log? Any log? 0. 0. There are some properties like that, right? Any log of 1 is always 0. If you see any fractions on the test, 1 over 16, or 1 over 27, or 1 over, what should you probably do to fractions?
Negative.
Right, rewrite them as negative exponents. 1 over 16 is 4 to the negative 2. If you want to write that as an example. It's not the 1, but it is a 1. 1 over 16 could be 4 to the negative 2. That's much more helpful for making bases match, right? There's a matching problem with a graph and with the transformed function, but don't stress when you're studying log or exponential graphs, the difference between like a 2 to the x and a 5 to the x and a 7 to the x. Don't stress about that. I'm not going to make the answer choices weird where there are different bases. You have to match the right one. Don't stress. Just get the general ideas. Where's the horizontal asymptote? Where's the vertical asymptote? Still talking about graphs, yeah, but vertical asymptote, horizontal asymptote. Remember the snail?
Yes.
There is a way. Oh, this board is getting super overrun. Isn't there a way to go from logarithmic form to exponential form? Right? Logarithmic form of something would be, I don't know, something like log base 5 of x is 3, right? I mean, this is good and all, and I know some of you know 5 to the, but I might give you something where you just need to rewrite it in exponential form. Remember, if it helps, you can use the snail as far as base 5 to the power 3 equals ending in x. It might be helpful to at least kind of study how to go from exponential to logarithmic or from logarithmic to exponential. That might be helpful. But then we also have something else that might be helpful called the change of base formula, right? And the change of base formula, now you guys know in solving equations there are some creative ways to kind of work around needing these, but I might give you problems on the test where the way I ask it, you kind of have to know it. So change of base says any log. Do you guys want it general or specific, with numbers or with letters? Okay. If I have any log with some random base, I can change it to be any other base, but the big one goes on top of the argument, and then the old base goes on bottom. But remember what this means. I can do like ln of x over ln of a. And why did I choose ln?
Because of E.
Maybe because of E, but also because in future math sciences, this is their preferred logarithm. Remember section 3.4? There were ln's everywhere. They weren't doing log base 2, log base 3, log base 5. They were just using ln's and saying forget it. So, something to keep in mind. What's that whole inverse property thing? If I have like a e to the ln, is that nice? E to the ln of x, what happens? Cancels out. Or if I have like a 2 to the log base 2, what happens? Right? So log a to the log base a, there are some inverse properties. I would just write down inverse properties. You'll find them in your notes. And then, how about the whole expand and condense thing? Expand and condense. We have the product, the quotient, and the power properties. You're going to have an expanding one with multiple pieces, but we have homework examples and examples how to expand. And we have condensing ones. Somewhere in there, you're going to have to put together that a 1/2 power is a square root. And didn't you just see, wait, was that not our class? No, maybe not. Sorry, last class we had something where it was 4 to the 1/2, and we had to know that's 2. Which some of you are like, well, I would have guessed 2 anyway. Well, okay, well, how about 25 to the 1/2? Would you know that's 5? Knowing that the 1/2 power is a square root. And then, quick reminder for you guys, like from all the previous math. Remember, if I ask for an x-intercept, aren't we setting the whole equation equal to 0, right? The x-intercept, we're setting the whole equation to 0. Okay, that was multiple choice. That was multiple choice. Long answer. There are 4 of them. And I want you to be totally ready. Okay? Wait, have you heard any word problems yet? Mm-hmm. Nice, right? Okay, so listen carefully. Long answer. There are 4 of them. They're worth about double the multiple choice. We already know they're worth a lot. Yeah? Okay. With long answer, 2 of them are solving equations. One is solving a multi-step log, which means it's not as easy as like, oh, 10 to the, I'm done. 1 to 1, I'm done. No, it's going to take multiple steps. But it's like a section 3.4 log equation you're solving for x. The second one is like a section 3.4 exponential equation. I give you 1 of each. Your job is to get x alone. But, 1 log equation. 1 exponential equation solved for x, like section 3.4, so the harder equations, not the beginning of the equations.
So go solving for x.
Go solving for x. You don't have to go to a decimal. You don't even have to go to what the back of the book would say. You just have to get x alone, however messy the other side is, and say, box it, I'm done. There could be some weird fractions, there could be some weird, like you could have used log base something and they used ln's, it doesn't matter. I just need something legally gotten where x got alone. That's half of them, right? The next 2 are word problems. So listen, section 3.5. But be strategic. There are lots of different types. Okay? The first 3.5 long answer problem is like the finance table we did yesterday. You had number 7, you had number 10. It's like number 7, number 10. It's like the one from that table. Which is nice because, guys, what formula did you need to know? Per. So, yeah, A equals per P times E to the RT. Okay, that's the first equation you've heard all like test long from 3.5, right? Just per. Okay, so it's from the table literally. I have initial investment, annual percentage rate, time to double, amount after 10 years. It's literally the table. You just have to fill in with the info. Okay. The second word problem from section 3.5.
No.
It's an exponential growth equation, but I give it to you. You don't have to have it memorized. It's a word problem that gives you an equation. That gives you an equation with a hint you have to plug in to find the rate. It gives you an equation with a hint to plug in to find the rate. And once you find the rate, you have to use the equation to solve for what it wants. Now, I'm almost positive there are homework problems like it, so we'll try to find one as we go over homework. Sound good? Oh, okay. The second one is an exponential growth word problem, where I give you the equation. You have to plug in a clue, like plug in what I give you in the right spots. So I'm going to say, like, hey, when this happens, you're going to solve for the constant, solve for the rate, and then use the whole equation to solve again. It's a word problem with growth. The equation is given to you with clues. We'll stop there. Do you want to know the bonus?
Yes.
From section 3.4. How to solve a quadratic equation with an e to the x in it. How to solve a quadratic equation with an e to the x in it. E to the 2x plus 7e to the x minus 12.
Oh.
Plus 12.
Is that the thing with the x?
I'm just giving you an example. E to the 2x plus 7e to the x plus 12 equals 0. That's an example. So if you get to that in notes and homework, you could totally ignore it and say, it's a bonus, it's not going to be anywhere else, and you're totally correct. Or you could say, oh, that's an example in the notes. I'm going to ace that one and at least have the bonus, even if a word problem gets weird. Okay, with those, let's grade 3.5 quick and easy. Let's grade 3.5 quick and easy. And remember things like, in your notes, 3.5 has nasty equations, like logistic growth, that you do not have to memorize. Okay, number 2 was just looking for some sort of logarithmic model. You could have done a couple different ones. You're filling in some of those models from our notes, so it wasn't too bad. Number 10 was that finance table one. But remember, guys, yesterday in the video, we basically did 7 and 10, right? Pretty close to it. Or not necessarily, but I'll still get them. Oh, final answer. Wait a minute, guys, look. Now, this wasn't a word problem, this was a table, but look. Wasn't there a clue that you had to plug in and solve for R and then use it to find something else? Isn't that kind of what I just said about the word problem? You have some equation. You're plugging in a clue. You're solving for what you don't know, and then you're putting it into the equation to solve for something else. That's literally kind of what the word problem needs you to do as well. Anyway, moving on. Number 24, final answer is, well, you technically have things along the way, but your A ends up being the final answer after 1,000 years is 0.41 grams. But up here you would have gotten a B. Now, I realize some of you got it as a decimal. Okay, so write what they wrote. You can plug in and make sure your decimal is good, but if you got 0.41-ish at the end, you should have been fine. But if you notice, I don't think this will mess you up on the test tomorrow. I won't really let it mess you up. I maybe should, but I'm not going to be that picky. If you got this as a decimal, you might have just plugged in like a few decimal places up here, at which point your answer would be a little bit off because you incorporated some error when you rounded it. That's why it's always safer if you find a number to use the whole thing to solve for something else, because that way it'll be the most precise. That's just like a scientific, mathematical. We're not doing sig figs, but it's just like a general procedure to be careful of. Okay. Whew. 39, 30. Did I give you 30?
Yeah.
So long.
30 has a lot going on. Can we skip ahead to 34 for right now, just because there's a lot to check? Let's skip ahead to 34. Let's skip ahead to 34. Then we'll come back. What was it, huh?
Oh, wait, that's
Okay. 34, you had two different clues to plug in. 34, you had two different clues to plug in. And the only way to solve this one would have been using the clue that this one is double that one. So they made this equation of, oh, hey, so he is 2 times him. They had to somehow put these together with the clue that was given. And then you were able to solve. You could have almost done 1-to-1 property, but not quite. Not quite. You ended up having to divide the e to the b to the other side, and the like bases lets you subtract the exponents. To be honest, guys, the algebra in number 34 is harder than anything you're going to see tomorrow, as far as e to the 10b divided by e to the b is e to the 9b. That's harder than anything you're going to see tomorrow. Even though you might have gotten a little bit stuck, the algebra is harder than the test. By the end of the day, you solved for your constant, you plugged it in, and then you used that equation to solve for something else. Once again, that procedure of solving for one thing with clues, plugging it in, and then using it to solve is something that you saw in homework over and over again. That's like the word problem on the test. 397. They rounded to the nearest whole number because the nearest whole bacteria.
Check your back. Check your back.
48 also not like anything on the test as far as the difficulty level. I just thought it was a super interesting question because you were comparing each of these different sounds, these different noises, and their decibel level. And basically you were comparing the powers of 10 is what you were ultimately doing. They gave you an equation in the very beginning, and the nice thing, if you realized, if you wrote down this as your given, all you had to do was plug in the one they gave you as a denominator every single time, because you were comparing to, what was that, like a feather or something? No, it was, I don't remember. I forget what this sound was. You were comparing to this sound every time and how it compared. But then you were putting the given on top, and all you had to do was just plug it into the calculator. Although you could have solved because it's a common log, but maybe you guys didn't realize you could have done mental math on all of them. Number 52, once again, it was weird because it's like, I don't know how to do this whole pH level. But the nice thing is, all you have to do is just say, this is a thing? Okay, cool. Why am I seeing it in pre-calc? Because it has a log in it, whatever it is. So then all you have to do is just plug and chug. So you saw a lot of things in section 3.5 because logarithms show up in a lot of different places. Sound? Sure. Growth and decay? Sure. Finance? Sure. Chemistry? Sure. So none of these equations you have to memorize. None of these situations you have to memorize besides PERT. PERT is the one to memorize as far as applications. But everything else is, can you plug and chug, basically. So then this last one should have been really easy if you guys had drawn out your sketches, right? So you just have to look at the sketches and match it. So you have logarithmic, logistic, exponential, linear. That was just a line. Like I didn't specifically write that in the section, but linear. This one has like a totally different pattern. It has a little bit of a line and a quadratic. It looks like a piecewise. Then exponential, quadratic, Gaussian is that bell one. But once again, those you don't have to memorize for tomorrow. Okay. Is there a place where you, oh, number 30. Okay, let me give you the answers to number 30. Technically, guys, remember, I'm recording. You can pause, you can go back, you can look if you need to. But number 30, for letter A, final answer was,
Is this on the test?
hold on, let's grade first and I'll go. And letter, nothing this difficult, Emily, for sure, nothing this difficult. Where are we going? Is there no like A, B, C?
There is that. Oh, that's A, and the B and C like.
Yeah. Okay, Bulgaria, got it. Bulgaria was 6.1 million. Bulgaria was 6.1. Canada was 39.2. Canada projected, I think projected population in whatever year we're looking at in 2030 is 39.2 million. In China, projected population would be 1,441.1 million. 1,441.1 million. UK is 69.5 million. And the US is 375.8. If you think about those numbers, they should be extremely humbling. Because if you notice, China's projected population 1,441 versus the US 375.8. Now there are some, poor little Bulgaria. But its landmass is also much different, right? So we're not talking about like per square mile, the ratio. We're just talking about the actual number of people. So in letter B, we're saying the greater the rate of growth, the greater value of B. So B is kind of like that rate constant. And then it determines as to whether the population is getting bigger faster or is getting slower. Sorry, is getting smaller. Has to do with the population growth, increasing or decreasing. Emily, in answer to your question, no. Nothing like that as far as the huge, very work-intensive comparison of all these different countries and all these different clues. But could there be clues given like X's and Y's or like T's and whatevers that you have to plug in the clue and solve for an unknown? Definitely. But just not near as extensive. Okay. So, ask me one that you got stuck on last night and let me strategically do one that seems to line up with either the first or second long answer on the test. Sound good? Okay, give me something. What's something you got stuck on? And I'll say strategically whether or not we should spend time on it. Yeah, Cassie. Number 10? Yeah. Okay, is number 10 strategic for tomorrow in the test?
Yes.
Yes, because there is one of these table problems on the test tomorrow. True? Yeah, that's the table one I'm talking about. The first word problem from section 3.5. Okay, if I were you, no matter where you're at, whether or not homework was totally done or not, right now, this is helpful for the first word problem from 3.5 on the test. So check it. Alec, you're the one that knows this one. What's the formula for this whole table? Okay, let me label stuff. This is the amount of money that you have. Amount number, that's silly. Amount price after T years. This is the initial, where you're starting. This is the rate, and this is the time, right? We can put little times. Okay. So when you're in your table, remember I said it's the exact same setup tomorrow. This initial, what can I plug this in as right now? He's my P. So he's going to go into my equation. Now, I'm missing, I think, is this the growth rate?
Yeah.
Annual
percent.
Annual percent rate.
And then the other one is time to double.
And then that's my time to double. And then this is the amount, right? After 10 years?
Yes.
Okay. So this is my A of 10. And we're trying to fill in these other two guys. So, ready?
Rate.
I can say A is equal to P 500 e to the RT. But the bummer is I can't go answering my rate until I know what R is, so I have to go, ready, to my clue to plug in what I know. So let's take this equation and let's plug in. So using this clue right here, I can plug in 10 where?
T.
Right? I can plug in T as, let's see, 500 e to the r times 10 equals A is my 1505. Now guys, if you see this on the test, you plug in a clue, you need to get to r, just pretend like r is x. How do I get to x?
Divide 500.
Divide the 500. Good. So if I divide the 500, all of a sudden, don't I have my e alone? And why is my e alone? Hey, this is kind of also like the equation on the test in the long answer where I say it's a harder exponential. It's very similar. Divide, got it. How do I get rid of e? ln both sides. Can you go getting a decimal? Sure, but why? Just keep going and then you'll plug it all in your calculator. So now don't I have 10r is equal to ln of 1505 all over 500? How do I get rid of, oh, that's easy. Divide by 10. You don't have to make it look gorgeous. Just get me an answer. Can you plug this into your calculator as a decimal? Good. So then as you plug that in, someone who plugged it in and they got ln of 1505 over 500 all divided by 10, what was your decimal for r?
0.11.
More, so that's approximately 11%. Does that make sense? So in the test tomorrow, you're going to have boxes that are unknowns in the table. So you want to go ahead and find that r. If it says percent, make it a percent. If it just says find r, okay, that's an r, you're fine. But I have one more space to fill in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Time to double. What's doubling? Your initial, your time, your rate, or how much money you have? My money. My money's doubling. Time to double. I'm trying to find t equals. I don't know. Sorry, this was r equals, right? This was rate. This is time. Find the time to double. What? My money. I want my money to double. Maybe make yourself a note. If my money doubles, then, okay, well, I had 1505. So if my money's doubled, so what do I have now? Oh, yeah. Is it just... Is it 310? Okay. But wait a minute, didn't we just find what r is? Couldn't I plug that in, 0.11 something? Now I would plug in the perfect r, not the rounded r, because that way I don't introduce error. But I just, oh, easy, t's right there, just get to them. Well, how do I just get to them? Well, guys, just use your equation solving skills. How do I get to t? Divide, so I have 3010 divided by 1505 equals e to the 0.11, etc. t. Throw in an ln and divide by your 0.11, right? So I get my ln of 3010, which is technically just 2. That might make life a lot easier. Divided by my 0. And then throw on something like years, because it's probably years. And then you're good to go. You have your rate and you have your time. Just have to plug in that nasty number or whatever it is. Yeah. I doubled. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Oh. Sorry, I don't have all my things. You're right, I should have paid attention. I doubled the amount after 10 years. I should have doubled just 500. Got it. But the nice thing is, do you guys see how I solved it? Have I even plugged it in my calculator yet?
No.
The crazy thing is, Sophia, is actually this doesn't change anything, because what I did, the ratio was 2, and 1,000 over 500, the ratio is going to be 2 also. So because I knew kind of what I was doing, even though obviously I chose the wrong one, it's going to end up being the exact same answer.
Could you simplify it?
Yeah, to make it 2. Just make sure you only do ln of this. ln start and parentheses and then divide by. Because if you accidentally divide in the ln, it's going to mess things up. Okay. Plugging in and then solving and using it to solve for something else, right? Cool. Do we have any other word problems? Because maybe it'll help you in the second one, the word problem-y one. Does anybody have a word problem-y one they didn't like besides number 30? That was a little bit extreme and intense and long. Anything that was more like just a paragraph? And sounds kind of like tomorrow they give you an equation, you plug in a clue, and you solve for something else.
What?
Okay. Let's lean against someone's shoe. I haven't started yet. Leave me alone. This one is questions. I haven't even done number 1. I'm not reading it until I get to it. No, you.
Huh. Well, do you guys not want to find a word problem like tomorrow? You don't have to. Can you find a problem that has an equation where you had to plug in stuff and solve? I'm looking. There are lots of equations, but some of them are really weird looking, like that pH one that we just saw. I mean, there's an equation. We could do something like 41. Did you guys have 41? No. Did you guys have 42? 43? 36? You don't have any of those? 41, 42, 43, 36. Which ones did you have? 31, 34. What was the next one?
45.
Uh-huh.
48. 52. 55.
Anything else?
66.
That was the last one. Let's peek at what'd you have? 34? 33? 34?
Number 5 is cookie.
Okay. For number 34, let's pretend that they give you the equation. Let's pretend that they give you an equation. Because remember I said you wouldn't have to memorize it tomorrow. But this is exponential growth. So let's pretend they give you an equation of y equals a e to the bt, something like that. Let's pretend they gave you the equation. Where did you guys plug in your clues? Where did you guys plug in your clues? Think about PERT, if that helps. Because doesn't exponential growth look a lot like PERT? Okay. So as soon as you see the word initial, what does that make you think of? P. So I can put that in there. Okay, y equals 250 e to the RT. I can put that in as my key. Whether you see it as this or as this, either way. Initial goes in right there. Okay. Now what? I have another clue, don't I? Check. Got that one. The population after 10 hours is double the population after 1 hour. So population, isn't that y? After 10 hours, isn't that a t? Right? So if I was to go plugging in, I could say, okay, after t hours, so 250. Do we know what y is after 10 hours? Like what the number equals? Well, you do know that it's double or 2 times. What is it double? Population after how many hours? So t equals 1. So you do double This is a little bit harder, but it's still having you practice, okay, hours is time, I plug in, initial, it goes there, and I plug that in. This one's weird because it had like a sentence that we made a mathematical equation to solve. But do you guys realize now I just need to get r alone, right? And so if you get r alone, some of you might realize if you divide by 250, that simplifies out. And I end up with 2e to the r, and over here, e to the 10r. I told you guys this is harder math than anything you're going to see tomorrow as far as this next step. If I divide by e to the r, this makes you review from Algebra 1. Like bases, we subtract. That's how they got that e to the 9r. The one you're going to see on the test, there's not this extra e's on both sides thing. You're just going to get to something like this. How do I get rid of an e if I have them all nice and alone? Throw in the ln. And I end up with r being, I have to divide by 9, but my ln of 2. Now, here's the hard part. Am I done with my problem once I find my r? No, that was a step, like in the word problem on the test. It's a step to get here. But what are they still asking me to keep going and do? Okay, so now I know t equals 6. I know my r is equal to ln of 2 over 9. Can't I take my nice equation and say, I know that, I know this, I know this, and I know, oh, all they're asking me to do is plug it in my calculator. Just a few of you are like, let's start canceling stuff out. Careful, there's a lot of stuff up here in your exponent. If I were you, I would just, especially in word problems, just plug it in, get your decimal. That's totally fine. So you would get y is equal to, throw that into your calculator. Be careful, it's only ln of 2. It's only ln of 2, all of that divided by 9. And you're going to get your number of bacteria that you guys got. Was it 397? I don't know why it's sticking out from my head.
Something like that.
It was something, yeah, they rounded to the nearest bacteria. It was like 300 something. But anyway, once again, this weird like e to the 10r, e to the r, and like making two sides of an equation, that's awkward. That's not like tomorrow. But you are going to plug in a clue that's going to let you take ln's, properly get your r, plug in your r, and solve. That's kind of like the word problem. Guys, we're done as far as homework questions. Let's not stress about any of the other ones as far as you saw me keep on passing over the other ones that were that you did. Now, I did maybe pass over some strategically, but I did do number 10 because you asked me. I did this one that's kind of similar. I'm not saying the rest of homework is crazy and not helpful, but like this Bulgaria, Canada one, no, way too intense. These like decibel ones are cool, but not something I would test you on. Same thing with the pH levels. There's the decibels and the pH levels. I'm not going to test you on that. That's a little too specific. I was just showing you like, hey, it's a thing. All right, so you guys' review. It's down here somewhere. Here it is. Let me go ahead and throw it up on the screen from your Google Classroom just in case you haven't written it down yet. Remember, no directions, no problems. As far as writing extra, you're just trying to solve. Now, I think I threw in at least a couple word problems in there. But remember, a lot of these are basic. It's like, hey, throw into your calculator e's or ln's to be ready for the word problems, right? Or make the bases match and solve. Or talk about a transformation. Or simplify. Here's something we probably haven't done a lot recently. Simplify something like log base 3, I don't know, 1 over 81. How would you guys simplify that?
3 to the negative 4.
I could rewrite this log base 3 of 3 to the negative 4 because that's 3 to the 4th power. And then, like some of them are just kind of using your log properties, condensing, expanding, etc. So no, it looks nasty, but some are pretty short. And I was talking with a kiddo yesterday and their mom just about kind of how pre-cal is going. kids get frustrated being like, I felt all right going into the test because I looked at my notes, it all made sense. I looked at the review, and yeah, I had to go to Slater, or I had to go to CalChat, or I had to, but it made sense. Problem is, studying something that's already solved only gets you so far, and it leads you to blanking out on a test. It makes all the difference when you practice a skill over and over again until your brain does it on its own without looking at an answer key. Some of you are like, I look at the answer key, or I look at the notes, or I look at the examples that you did until it makes sense. Well, it's good that it makes sense, but that doesn't mean that your brain will remember how to do it on a test unless you force your brain to practice. With blank problems, where your brain makes the next step on its own without being told to do the next step. Anyway, kind of tricky, kind of rough. Is there anybody who's in the review that's like, I didn't like this problem kind of stuff? Hold on a little bit. Yeah.
I just have a question on, like, when you find your graph a lot, and then it does this. I know you addressed it, like, when you first started talking about it.
The error messages, check all the arguments.
Because things are really matters.
So somehow accidentally that Hey guys, where's that log-based button in your calculator? Just in case.
In math.
Math, and then I think you scroll all the way down.
It's 6, I think.
It's just tomorrow.
Tomorrow, if you solve and it looks different in all the answer choices, could you get a decimal? And then can you match it up with all the decimals of the answers? Maybe one or not. Okay, that's a thing. That's a strategic one. I'll be in here during lunch. I'll be in here period 7. I'll be in here after school. And the nice thing is tomorrow morning is calculus 0 period, which means I'm not going to the meeting in the morning. I just kind of chill in here supervising the kids working together, the calculus kids working together. So if you guys have a question in the morning, you can pop in. 7:15, 7:30. I can probably answer it quick for you. Sound good? KJ.
Where's the button?
Yours?
Yeah.
Not
Yeah,
there.
he doesn't have it, he doesn't check anything.
But if you know the change of base formula, which you need to know anyway,
Pressure test.
just do your Alexa.
Do I need to do that?
Let's say I gave you the log base 3 of 181. Technically, is it -4? You should be able to find -4. So will they be able to type it in? No, we don't have -4 on those ones. But you could do ln of 1/81 over ln of 3, and you know it's
The top one is so small.
kind of a workaround. I don't think you necessarily need it unless in your answer you're getting like log base 3 of 2. You're not getting to the ln of 3 over ln of 2 like in section 3-4, and you're wanting to make the decimals match. That's where you're at. I always have a spare calculator if you like one in the
That's why he touches you.
Oh my god! PERT is the formula. And the rate, if they don't give it to you in words, you plug in a clue and you say, what?